Hello and a really big warm welcome to this presentation from the Urban Penguin. My name is Andrew Mallett, and in today's video we're going to take a look at using the Rider IDE from JetBrains. This is going to allow us to edit code in C#, and it doesn't matter the platform that we're using. If you're using Microsoft's solution, you could use Visual Studio, but you would have to use that either on Windows or in Mac. They don't currently offer it on a Linux platform. Whereas if we use Rider from our good friends at JetBrains, the people who also make PyCharm, you're going to be able to use it on Windows, on Mac, as well as on Linux. Also, if you're using Visual Studio, you might be using the ReSharper plugin. That is also from JetBrains, but it's included with the Rider product. So your C# development can be made really easy and really simple. And we're going to show you how. So let's not be wasting any more time, and let's dive out to my Ubuntu 24.04 machine and take a look at getting started with C# and Rider on Ubuntu. And hello and a really big warm welcome through to my Ubuntu 24.04 desktop system. We're using a desktop because we want to be writing code and have access to an IDE to give us the assistance that is going to really help. We are going to be working with C#, a programming language that is able to run on macOS, on Windows, as well as Linux. And that's made possible by the .NET framework, an intermediary layer where we compile code to work with the .NET framework. And so long as we have then the .NET framework runtime on our operating system and host architecture, we're going to be able to execute the code, keeping our code common across the different applications and architectures that we have to work on. Now, if I go through then into my App Center, I'm going to be able to install Rider from JetBrains. We don't have Visual Studio available to us. We only have Visual Studio Code available to us on Linux. Microsoft does not make the Visual Studio, the full-on editor, available on Linux, whereas Rider from JetBrains, the people that also write the very popular PyCharm, make Rider available for you on macOS, on Linux, as well as on Windows. So that's what we're looking at installing, and you can see that it's available as standard on Ubuntu systems, making it really easy to get up and running with. Now, it is a paid product, but I would also put the proviso on that if you're using Visual Studio, a lot of people like the very popular plugin that can be used, ReSharper. But that plugin is a paid-for option from JetBrains that you add to Visual Studio, but it's included in Rider. So we don't have to worry about then adding in the extra tool to tidy up our code once it's created. So now we are up and running. We can go through and open up our IDE. We can accept the agreement. Obviously, this is the first run. We can send statistics if we need. And then we can see then that we can run a 30-day trial or add in our license. But let's go through and start our 30-day trial. We can take the default theme. We don't need at this stage to go through and register anything at JetBrains, so let me just go through and close the web page. I can choose, as I say, the default theme. We'll just stick with the Rider theme, the default here. And then we're on to key mapping. I'm going to accept again the default key mapping. But we see we also have Visual Studio and VS Code mapping here. VS Code is the cut down editor that's available from Microsoft, and that is available on Linux. But Visual Studio, that's a full-on editor that is required with C#, is not available. So we're going to choose the default. Again, I'm just leaving the key mappings here at Visual Studio, and I can then continue to open up my project. We're then prompted to add in any additional plugins. I'm not going to worry about the plugins at the moment. And now we're ready to create a new solution. So let's go ahead and click on our solution. I'm going to leave the solution name, the solution directory, all at the default. The next part is really good because it's allowing me to install the .NET framework, the full-on SDK. I'm going to choose the latest, so .NET 8, and it's going to add the full-on system developer kit. On any operating systems that I need to target my applications, they would need the runtime .NET framework installed. So I'm going to install then .NET 8, the full-on SDK. We can allow this to run through. It's not going to take too long, so I'll leave the system running. And now we can choose, well, what language do we want to write in? So we've got the choice of C#, F# or VB.NET. So we're going to stick with C# for the moment. I'm going to use a console application, so a command line application. And then there's an option here where I can select not to use the top level statements. There is code that I can omit in later levels of .NET, so .NET 6 and later. In some ways, I think it's clearer if I leave these statements in. So I just deselect the top level statements. I don't need to install the plugin for the AI assistant, so a little bit like your GitHub Copilot. And we can just close off the what's new. Let's just make sure I make the font a little bit larger so you can see what's going on. And we've got a very simple hello world. We then have to run the code, but in running it, we're also going to compile it. So let's go through and run this. So we compile it. It's compiled then for the .NET framework and then it's executed in the .NET framework. So we have hello world printing out. If we want to take a look at some of the advantages that we have with our Rider product, we can see that as I go through and add in extra code, we get our normal code completion, which is very good. But as I say, the ReSharper product that is quite popular for Visual Studio is included in Rider by default. So as I go through then and populate a variable, it's a typeful language, so I have to specify what type we are storing in the name variable. But we can see then that I'm getting some dotted lines underneath the S for string, and it's suggesting that using var might be better than using string. Just declare it as a variable, keeping my code more common and then less tied to the data type that I'm adding in. And that's what ReSharper, or one of the features that ReSharper gives you. We can then go through now and print out our variable. So we're just putting a string that we can do in here, $ and then hello and the name variable. We can go through and run it. I don't need my hot reload. So now we're prompting for our name. I can put in Fred and we get hello Fred. So I know all very simple, but it's just introducing to you the product Rider from JetBrains and then seeing how that can be an advantage to us because Rider includes the ReSharper, the code refactoring tool that is popular. Thank you very much. I do hope you've enjoyed this and I will see you back very soon.
All that is left to say is thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this, then you are probably sadder than I first thought. For more of this drivel, please subscribe, like and comment to @TheUrbanPenguin.